Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of the Robot Proof Recruiter, which I do not show enough at all, definitely not. And I am a facilitator and speaker. I'm, of course, joined by my gorgeous, talented talent acquisition professional co-host, the one, the only, the amazing Mr. Glenn Martin.
Hola.
Oh, that was tardy. Last week he was tired. This week I'm tired, so this shall be fun. We are super excited to having a sourcing guru extraordinaire in the name of Jiri Herodek. If I said that correctly.
Well done.
Welcome
to the show, Jiri.
Welcome, welcome. And of
Thank
course,
you.
we wouldn't be here at all if it wasn't for our extraordinary sponsor, Enterprise Alumni. Thank you for keeping us going for yet another week. And, oh, by the way, something very, very important to know. This is our last Friday show. We are moving to Thursday from next week. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that will confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show, Jiri.
Yeah,
Thank you for
welcome,
having me
Jiri.
here.
He noticed we
Cool.
have a queue. We have a really long queue. He had quite a wait. We've actually booked out the
Wow.
year. It's dreadful.
Oh,
Well, it's fantastic, actually. I think it's really, really cool. And I think we've even got people, plugging for 2021. So we'll be around for some time to come. Let's put it that way.
I was thinking that just earlier, I'm actually going to pop that person in January. And it was like, wait, January, the longest year ever, but we're still lined up. So yeah, thank you for waiting it out and joining us and not standing us up either after so long.
Yeah. And now it's all about you, Jiri. Let's talk first and foremost about how you kind of got into the recruitment. Give everybody a bit of an overview.
okay. So it's a long time ago. It's almost 10 years. I started in.
Yeah, Glenn and I are like, hey, how long are we? 17 and
15 for me.
10. You're just a baby.
Yeah, in comparison to more experienced people, probably yes. But for me, it's like, the time flies very quickly. I actually started in a French executive search company. It was the first experience that I had with recruitment and sourcing. And actually, since I was the only guy there, they were the managers or consultants. They were sending me the request for technical roles. So it was like I had to grasp very quickly, and it was in the time when at least here the let's say phone sourcing was very common. So the whole day was more about calling people and trying to get through the
phone sourcing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the UK,
back in the day, phoning.
Depend on the level, phone bashing or phone sourcing. Phone sourcing sounds a lot nicer, though, to be fair, Jiri.
Phone sourcing sounds much more important than just phoning people, spamming people, interrupting their afternoon.
Actually, it was very, very interesting, and I had a very good coach. Right now, it's probably not very common. Everyone is online, so it's different story. But I actually got to know more about LinkedIn and various strategies, how to approach people. Yeah, and then I moved actually to Deloitte, which was short, let's say, episode. It was more about coordination and talking with people, which is also important as well. Yeah, and then I spent almost 5 years in small executive search company that were specializing on IT, where I actually, where I was covering actually all process through sourcing, interviewing people, closing deals. And it was very interesting. So, and I was working for very interesting clients in Prague, and then I moved to consulting to Swiss company, which was a little bit different. It was not about, let's say, client requests, but also about own projects that we had. And right now I'm actually in Accolade, which is completely different type of company. Wow. We operate in healthcare. We are the US company, so processes are a little bit different. And
good place to be working in at the current time, though. IT, healthcare.
Yeah,
it's American company as well. Let's be fair.
Yeah. But I'm really super happy to be here. We are needed now than ever before, and it's, as I said, it's super busy now. So,
which is good, isn't it?
Cool. Sounds good. So let's pop the topic of today.
Oh! Sorry, I was too busy focused on comments.
Boom.
Recruiters, data analytics matter. Unless you're me, who just hears the word data and gets a bit. No, I know it's important. So. I'll listen respectfully, even though I'm like, I'm bad. I should be way better at this. I had to do tons of research for the book.
Let's start with Jiri, why is data analytics important to you? Because that's where it's coming from, right? Your interest starts with why it's important for you. So tell us why it's important to you in your role as a kind of recruiter.
Yeah, there are a couple of reasons, but the most important is that you have to know where and how to improve, and the only way how you can improve is through numbers. When then you are watching your numbers, it's not just about the response rate, but it's also about analyzing concrete, for example, responses, and of course you have to do it from the long-term perspective. So it's not just about 1 month,
of course.
but for example, I analyze also how many people view my job ad and why don't apply. So there are like multiple aspects how we can approach it, and it's not just about the response rate, but I think definitely what recruiters should be doing is also experimenting. Unfortunately, many of recruiters and sources don't have time to it because they have to fill roles, and and that's why actually we are where we are, because people just send messages and that's it.
I bet there's very few recruiters that look at, oh wow, I had 1,000 people look at that job and only 50 applied. Maybe I need to change something. Like, I'm curious to know, guys, who's watching, your thoughts on that as well, because we've got quite a few people. And I will say hello, Tush, Debbie, Anshu, Darlene, John. I think I've covered everyone. I'm sure I'm missing people. My comments aren't showing on actual LinkedIn, which is quite odd.
So just on that point, Jiri, where did your interest in data analytics start? So what was the starting point for you?
Yeah, actually, I can remember it. It was 2015 when I actually was writing some. I was analyzing my own data. So, for example, how many people reply? It was not just about response rate, because if we look at the LinkedIn response rate, it also it also includes people who write you, for example, thank you, but I'm not interested in. But I was also interested in why people reply, and of course why people don't reply. So, and by the time I've developed some kind of let's say, I don't want to say messaging framework, but the style that is great or that suits to me. And and of course not every style is suitable for everyone. So I was also trying to replicate my style for other recruiters, and I found out that it's not working. So maybe this approach
how interesting.
Actually, I was watching and reading some studies that were analyzing what makes recruiters great, and more and more I'm doing this job, I'm convinced that big part it's the talent, that it's something that we born with, because I know lots of hard workers, recruiters, but many of them unfortunately will not be so successful and I think this is one of this reason. And data analytics give us some kind of guiding how we can improve. And of course it has to be combined with, for example, people skills and some other skills, because I think recruitment job is the most difficult, because it combines a lots of skills: sales, marketing, psychology, many others. And once
you're talking about those human skills, that ability to woo. So it doesn't, because it's almost like dating, isn't it? Sounds weird, but it is. And not every recruiter will have that ability to connect with another human like that, which is quite interesting. We have got, oh my goodness, we've had a whole load come through. I saw one from Tush that he was saying, and I've lost it. There we go. 100% experimenting and creativity is needed, which is what you were also saying. And Vanessa, yep. How can you hope to improve your interactions with others without measuring response rate? Yeah, which is also what you're talking about. But really fascinating that you were even just saying, well, I use this, but actually, because there is that thing, isn't there, that I just want the best email and I'll copy and paste it. But what you're saying is actually no, because which backs up my stuff in the book, makes me feel good. But anyway, sorry, back to you. I tell you I'm tired. I'm bad when I'm tired. Glenn, you're doing the rest of the show. I'm going to nap.
Oh yeah, thanks. Well, I guess I want to play devil's advocate a little bit, in so much as how far do you think you can kind of take the analytics element? Is there a danger of over analyzing? Because to Katrina's point, that kind of human first element, sometimes your intuition as a human being interacting with another human being, you can't put a data or a number around that. So how do you balance your utilization of kind of analytics with actually just being a human interacting with another human being?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, even for me, whenever I start a new project, new position, sourcing a new position, I always go to people that I know, because it doesn't make sense to analyze, because most people, and I think it's the biggest mistake, they usually do just some kind of generic but relevant search, and they start to contact people that, for example, they have never had any interaction with. So they just send targeted messages, but since there is no connection to these people, like someone you really know, it's always like a bet. People can reply because it's good timing, and that's it. It's just of course you cannot minimize this from equitation. So it's also about coincidence. You have super good message, you write it to someone, and people reply because it's good timing for them. And for me,
I messaged my mate who on LinkedIn to ask him a question, and I'm like, I don't know why I've done that. I should have just sent him a Twitter DM, because I guarantee that's where he is. He's not on LinkedIn. So it's like, that's the other thing. Are you choosing the right medium to get in touch with him? Like you're saying, it's all about timing, isn't it?
Well, there again, it comes into the platforms you're primarily using, Jiri, right? So, I mean, do you, without endorsing any particular platforms, do you have a particular platform or particular channel that is your kind of primary go-to?
Yeah, I use LinkedIn, because even though the message response rate has dropped significantly, I think if we speak about numbers, a couple of years back in my region, it was like 30% if you are working as an internal recruiter and you really target your messages. But now it's much less. It like, I saw some stats like 20% approximately. So it's definitely LinkedIn, recruiter, and I use people aggregator. I don't know if I can name the company. So it's
probably best not to.
Okay.
As long as you don't. The only thing that matters is not naming the competitors of Enterprise Alumni, and I think they're so unique. You'll be okay.
Exactly.
But definitely, I like it. It's So
I think. Well, I mean,
got some good comments here. Oh,
well,
sorry.
Let's throw them
I
up.
just said they're good. I want to get them in before you move on too far. Quality crap is still crap. Recruiters, sources, TA need to know if they are attracting and engaging with quality. No one size fits all. JS3, I get it. Data shows the talent pool as a number of potential candidates in a particular market, but does it also show if some of these candidates are passive for a long time and not moved? Say LinkedIn. Yeah. Do you guys get that, or do I need JS3 to explain?
And I think what she's probably perhaps referring to is the fact that now LinkedIn are kind of moving up to trying to identify people that are actively looking and people that are maybe passive, and they're trying to differentiate that with that kind of green banner, which is like open to opportunities or open for work or whatever. So you can search. I think you can search on that now, right? Can't you? Just in terms of people that are open to opportunities. And then in Recruiter, you have when you run a search, you have these individuals are likely to respond kind of types of options. So I think that's probably what she's referring to is like differentiating active and kind of passive candidates. Correct me if I'm wrong, JS3.
Does that make us more interesting? Does that make, because some recruiters would rule out the active candidates because they're a bit brainwashed into thinking they're not as good. Oh, did I just say that out loud? Oops.
Yeah. What's your okay? So I mean, from your point of view, Jiri, when you're kind of searching, do you kind of utilize that kind of tool and option in LinkedIn and other platforms? Do you try and sort of segment up, or do you just kind of think, well, actually, I'm just looking for the people with the skills and experience, and I'm confident that I can perhaps pitch that opportunity to them regardless? What I
usually do is that I try to contact people who are open to the job first. It's easy win, low hang fruit. And then I go to people who I have been in contact with recently, of course, checking my pipeline. So this is also super important in terms of filling the roles. And And then I, of course, contact people from first line connection. So it's because and I write them that we were in contact in the past. For example, I think it would be great to find messages when exactly it was. But I remember the market here is quite small, so those, let's say, top candidates I know. So it's
a little, yeah. And that is what she meant as well, by the way. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's too much of time investment to follow up with passive candidates. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I get that.
So flipping it around, recruitment as a function, TA as a function. Hang on a second. Okay, Google, stop. Google Home is just kind of talking to me. I have no idea why. So in terms of kind of recruitment and TA as a function, and the fact that we've got all this access to data now, in your experience, how important or how valued is that data by hiring managers?
It's super important. This is what I always show to our hiring managers, that talent pool is the size of the talent pool is like, for example, for I don't know, iOS developers, there is, for example, 200 people in Prague. So if we will not be able in messaging or hiring someone from Prague, we have to expand the market through the whole country or to somewhere else. And I think this is the first thing that they want to know, how the market looks like, and secondary, of course, they want to know why they don't have interviews, and that's, of course, it can be a couple of reasons for that. And again, it's a sourcer and recruiter's job to provide this reason. For example, we cannot meet, or we are above the budget or below the budget, so
your expectations are unrealistic.
Or our expectations are unrealistic, and this is something what you can prove based on the data from social networks.
So you go into your intake strategy sessions, or whatever you like to call them, chapter 5, as I like to call it, but you go in armed with all of that, and you sit with them and you show them. Do you do that sort of stuff? Because can you tell me what you do? Because I think it would be interesting for.
You mean in terms of like strategy? You mean where I go first, or?
So when your hiring manager goes, okay, I need an iOS developer, do you sit down with them and kind of talk, like you go into that meeting and talk through?
Definitely, there has to be an intake meeting when we, discuss the profile, clarify various questions. I usually always try to come up with some CVs, or because there always have to be some kind of benchmark. So, and second thing, which is also super important, is to calibrate it through the whole process, because the situation can change. For example, during the project, this person doesn't have to be so senior, or it can be, or on the other hand, it can be someone who is much more senior. So it's like that communication is instant. We use Slack for that, and so
cool. Have you experienced any hiring managers kind of push back on you and go, look, I'm not being funny, Jiri, I'm a head of engineering, I know the engineering community, I know the availability of candidates, and not your data's nice, but it's coming from a recruitment point of view. I'm in the community. Just go and find me some people.
Sure. I had a couple of stories like that, and
how did you manage it?
Yeah, go and share your stories. We want to know.
I usually come up with my laptop, and I show them, look, those people from my search. Is there someone who you know and who is missing here? Or I usually come up with some reports from LinkedIn or from this tool, from this people aggregator. And of course, it can be always someone who is not online, who is
hiding under a rock.
Hiding because
because they hate recruiters and they don't want to be online. So you basically just go in and like just show them is what you're getting at when they're like that. Because
exactly.
I think it's really important, and I do feel that's where agency side can be at such a disadvantage if they're just like, well, here we need an iOS developer, and they're not given the opportunity when they're kept at arm's length. You know, my agency days, it was so much better when I could talk to the hiring manager and partner properly.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I moved from agency to in-house, because I have easier access to all information, and I'm maybe in better situation than other companies because I work in, as you said, in IT and healthcare, and we actually develop cloud healthcare solutions and COVID-19 solutions and so on. So it's easier for me, and yeah, actually agencies operating here mostly the same way. They don't mention the company name, they don't mention, you know, any particular details. I know that from on the US market, in order to be effective in messaging, you should mention at least, I think, 7 details. I saw some stats. And for me, what is working for me, yeah, this is what I was reading some stats.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
That makes a long message.
I think that's why I think if you want to be efficient, you even cannot, you know, automate your messaging, because like 7 details, I think there is no existing software that can, you know, enables that. And for me, I always mention like 4, 5 things. Yeah.
So you've kind of touched upon it, Jiri, which is, you know, kind of just some of the things that you tend to kind of analyze and use data to keep track of. For the individuals that are perhaps new to data or just starting to kind of think about it, what are the 1, 2, or 3 key kind of areas that you continually measure the data on? What are the 3 things that you're kind of like, if you were to sort of say to somebody who's just starting to utilize data more, track these 3 things because they're gonna deliver benefits for you?
Yeah. Definitely, I measure my my LinkedIn response rate from long-term perspective. So I save my reports and trying to analyze if there is still, like, let's say some plateau by the time, or if I'm improving by the time, and if so, how much. It's one thing, and of course I'm trying to analyze the why people reply, or if there is any indicator. I think right now it's maybe easier for me, but a couple of years ago it was not. It's one thing, and I do the same for sending emails. So if I send emails to candidates, then what I measure is let's say the growth of my network. So since right now I cannot add anyone, but there is a
wow.
Yeah. There is actually free tool. I don't know if I can name it again. It's
sure. Well, unless they don't want you to name it.
It's for free, so it's an open source project, so everyone can find it. It's called Kumu. I think the website is kumu.io, and it measures. Actually, you can use it for multiple, let's say, stuff, but you can upload your connections, and it will show you, for example, which part of your network is stronger, which part of your network is weaker, and in which companies you have the strongest connections. So it's so it's useful. For example, if you really want to, let's say, expand your network, so you can very precisely define, for example, which companies you should focus on in building your relationships and messaging and so on. And what it also enables is that you can actually, for example, upload connections, of course, also your colleague, and you can see the overlap, for example, how many connections overlap, and you can, it's actually it's a great tool for data visualization, so you can play around and you can see, for example, which companies or which connections, for example, you and Glenn have in common, and
a lot.
Yeah.
So probably quite a bit. Yeah.
And that's really interesting. Oh, sorry, we had some good comments I just want to touch on before we move on to the new bit. I just love this one, John. This is just so bad. Saw a post where a senior in-house recruiter was asking how to exclude people open to work in a LinkedIn search, as they did not want to hire anyone who'd been laid off due to COVID. His company had laid off 300 people though. Nice.
Nice one, John. Nice pickup.
Shush, data is good, but you have to ask yourself, so what? Mind you, I think everybody needs to do that on their LinkedIn profile for every single thing they write on there, so you get the achievement. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, sorry, back to you. Data is good, but you have to ask yourself, so what? And what are the next actions you take from it? depending on your audience, showing actionable data and insights, which I think is what you've been talking about as well.
Definitely.
Oh, Lee's got a comment.
Lee.
Sorry, Lee, I did see your other comment. Sorry, I just like missed it.
Yeah.
No, quite long. Yeah. What criteria does this site use to determine what a strong connection is?
Oh, Jiri, over to you.
Lee,
yeah. I mean, it shows. I mean, it shows how many people in your first line, for example, are working, or how many people from this company you have in your network from this company. So it's clearly visible. Yeah, so it's clearly visible. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can click on people. You can change. Can
you do it by like job title rather than company?
Yeah, you can sort by job title. You can also exclude, for example, people based on some specific criteria. And
can you do that and then remove connections? Like I'm just thinking, like from back in my spring days, I've got like random people. No,
it would be great, but no.
Like as in my market now is recruiters. Obviously, then it was tech. So that's what I'm getting at. Like there'd be a whole lot of people that, particularly if you get to Jiri's, he said his 30,000 limit. Can't even imagine getting that far.
Yeah, certainly can. See, Jiri, I'm interested in how you use data to either optimize your messaging or that kind of engagement. How are you using data other than obviously just response rates? Is there anything else, any other metric that you're using to kind of help you think about that initial contact, that message you're sending?
Actually, it was a couple of years back. I was, for example, had 3 or 4 little bit or slightly different type of messages, and I was experimenting. For example, 1 week I was sending this, for example, type of message, and I was experimenting which message is more successful, and if there is any connection to the content. Of course, it has to be relevant. It has to personalize. But so this is what I was doing, and what I found is, it's not probably a surprise. So all message has to be as short as possible, and of course for developers it's specific again because they are interested in technology. So I'm trying to squeeze everything to one sentence when it comes to technology.
So
wow. This actually doesn't the one sentence remind you of the job adverts back in the day when you used to go to the newspaper? And that was just, sorry, I'm aging myself profusely. Glenn knows what I'm talking about. Jiri's like, what on earth? What's a newspaper? But it's similar, isn't it? They'd have this because you'd have to pay more for a bigger advert. So it really reminds me of that. Do you actually get some of your developers to do the outreach rather than messaging yourself?
Actually, I show them my messages, but they don't message people. They recommend people. Yeah, they recommend people, but I do it by myself. So,
well, that's good. Kind of getting the business and this particular team specialism to help you with some of the kind of initial contact, I think is cool. So what I'm gathering from that is kind of personalization is key. So you're taking time to think about each individual that you're contacting, which is good. I think probably the counter argument to that is, isn't that quite time consuming? Wouldn't it be easier just to kind of go with a bulk email?
Are you trying to say automation there, Glenn?
I think for me, I'm lucky because I have time, of course, or not all the time, but I have time to experiment with various tools. But of course, it would be easier for us, but it doesn't work. So you always have to take time to personalize and trying to create some connection with people. Because otherwise we can be replaced by robots, and that's the end.
But why have you got time though? Is that because your company understands the importance of allowing sources to research properly and gives you the bandwidth, or?
For us, it's of course we have to hire lots of people, or we are recruiting a lot, but it's not about quantity, but it's about quality. But and I'm lucky because the management understands that that of course I have to be efficient, I have to deliver candidates for the interviews, but of course and it's actually second aspect of our job. The brand is also super important, so I pay attention to the candidate experience, and it's also important to talk to people, tell them why they cannot work here or why we rejected them, or and I want to work for a company
I love that.
Yeah, because it's like
it's just so sensible. It's like, just give me the time to make a proper approach, so I don't look like a I'm trying to say, I don't look stupid. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And then the company doesn't look stupid, and we do a proper job, and then I can follow through, and then I can keep in touch, and all that. Like, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Were you about to ask a question, or will I throw one of these in? Okay, I'll shut up.
Well, I was just going to say, it makes
shut up.
Yeah, it makes sense for an in-house team, but I'm not necessarily thinking that from an agency perspective that, time is a lot more precious, and you have to spread yourself probably a lot more thinly, and you have to prioritize. So on that point, could automation really help in terms of kind of that initial outreach? If you can get it to a kind of slightly personalized approach, would you agree that, for agency side, it could be quite a valuable thing to think about levels of automation?
I think it can be if I think it depends on the market. Like, for example, there are markets that I know that it's, as far as I know, it's quite common in the UK, that massively, but I don't really think so that it's call center style of recruitment is working. But I do understand why these people are doing it. Always someone will reply, but I think it's super exhausting for I think for those people, because there is a high chance that there is 100% chance that they will target bad candidates from various reasons.
Well,
and actually that goes back, Glenn, to the company. Again, if we're going to stick with developers, because this is at least something the three of us recruited, so we know what we're talking about. If you put it out to 3 agencies, then you've got the same person potentially being bombarded 3 different times about the same company, and it doesn't reflect well on them. Whereas actually it would be much better to go, okay, we have to use an agency, we're going to use one and give them the time to do a proper job. Yes, of course, some automation tools are great. I might use one occasionally, possibly, about a mastermind, and occasionally send stray messages, possibly. Can I pull up Darlene's comment? Sorry, you're going to go on one, and he's not answering you anyway, so I'm being mean. Would be interested to hear from Jiri. What trends are you seeing in the current climate, and how are these being addressed? So actually, I was thinking that before when you were talking about your hiring managers. Are they okay? Have they shifted to remote? Are they going to allow remote? Are they? Because that would expand your ability to recruit developers, wouldn't it? Because you go, oh, I've got this person, but they're in Poland, rather than they have to be in Hungary.
For us, it's more common in the US, I would say, because we have multiple offices and lots of people are working from home. Because in the US the situation is different. Here it's I would say it's not 100% remote, but I would say right now, at least here in Prague, I can see some signals of some, let's say, possible, I don't want to say crisis, but because I receive even relevant candidates, like front-end developers who applied, for example, on our positions. And this is something what we, hadn't seen for a very long time. I would say the last time when I was in the situation was, for example, 2012, when the unemployment rate here was 8%. So and now we have 3%. So
it's still not as bad as 2012.
Yeah,
that's good.
So to answer this question is, we still like to have people in the office, and we like to meet each other, and of course the US is different case. So we will and we are monitoring the situation.
Do you think that's a cultural thing, that you like to be in the office?
Yeah, because we really love to meet each other, and right now, of course, most people are working partially from home, and we will see what's gonna happen. Because I definitely, in general, to reply this question is. On this question is, I think that more companies will work from home. Definitely, I think probably most of IT companies. So it's great for people. I show some stats that most people are okay with that, working from home. So in IT, it's not necessary to be in the office. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking because it would open the pool up of people, obviously.
Yeah,
I just think, I mean, particularly in that place. I mean, here in London, there were, I have no idea what there are right now, 5 job vacancies for every developer. So it was like such a high number. And you just think if you're suddenly going, well, you can be wherever, it becomes so much easier. Because I do think, I mean, a lot of people will relocate out of here thanks to Brexit. Sorry, I didn't say that out loud. I can't wait for the LinkedIn police haven't written one of the comments like, please don't swear. I usually get a please don't swear, don't I? I've not had one. I'm feeling very disappointed. I've dropped a few today.
You need to up your game, Katrina. You really need to up your game.
I need to.
On the subject of trends, I mean, and I'm picking up on the previous question. What kind of trends in data analytics are you seeing within the kind of TA and recruitment space?
I think that more and more companies, and actually it's already happening, but I think that more and more companies will implement either some kind of own solutions for analyzing all data that they have about talent management and recruitment. This software is already exists, so it's nothing new. And yeah, I mean, like creating various dashboards, for example, measuring which source is the best and which recruiter is, for example, the most efficient. And I can imagine that it will go further. For example, so the system will tell you, for example, this recruiter is the best because of this data, for example, because he's or she is
It's interesting. So measuring recruiter performance based on them identifying individuals that could potentially go into the process and get hired. But surely there's an argument to say, well, actually, how efficient that recruiter is dependent on the, maybe 3, 6, 12 months later when that person is either still in the business and still performing. So I wonder whether it goes, you can assess recruiters based on how many individuals they reach out to, the efficiency of the response, people in the kind of interview pipeline, hires. But I think surely there's a broader perspective to consider there. I wouldn't want recruitment to be viewed purely through that deliver to a point where somebody's hired kind of prism. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think also it's also a big question that you asked me as well with metrics. I think the second, the most important is, and this is something what I always asked on the interviews. For example, except of, for example, response rate that people have, if they have any idea. I ask about the conversion rates, or for example, how many
have an idea? Interview, like how many actually go? My response rate is. And how many tell the truth? My response rate is 95%.
Very few people. I think.
Yeah.
That's staggering. Yeah. That's really staggering, isn't it? Such a simple thing to improve. Wow. I actually thought at least half would know or something. Very few.
It's the same like with Boolean operators. Many people even didn't know what is it. So it's.
Boolean is probably considered quite old school now, Jiri. There's those of us that have been in the industry maybe 10 years probably remember how Boolean was like something utilized religiously, right?
But at any of the sourcing conferences, you would absolutely learn about that and the and the ors and the nots and the wacky stuff you can do X-raying websites and ooh, gosh, wow, mind blown. Oh, Lee has another question. Lee always throws in curveballs. Lee's as bad as Glenn at 25 minutes past. Actually, haven't done a curveball today. Do you see any value in developing your own proprietary candidate prospect database versus relying on LinkedIn? If not, why? Dun dun dun. We always feel like you need to give a few seconds after a Lee question.
Well, I mean,
I love how he thinks.
Yeah. Go, Jiri. That one's for you.
Of course, I don't rely on 100% on LinkedIn. Of course, for me, but again, it's because I'm in IT. It's GitHub, Stack Overflow, those free sources, and I always trying to find. There are a couple of manuals on internet you can find how you can, for example, find overlaps between a LinkedIn network and GitHub, and for example, GitHub and Stack Overflow. You can see which people or how many people are there new. So for example, it's also quite easy. And to answer question is yes, definitely.
I think it'd be crazy to rely on LinkedIn in tech. We're running out of time. God, it's gone fast. Wow. Sharon, welcome to the show, and thank you for your question. What initiatives have you seen that employers are implementing to address shortages of hard-to-fill labour? Examples include like in-house training and contracting and stuff. So
yeah,
because as a team, you've been invested in, of course. I've seen you at all the conferences, of course.
Yeah, definitely contracting. It's a I think new trend that we will see, or we observe it right now, but I think it will be more and more eminent here. And of course, training. We also have some internal training programs for employees, for new joiners as well. And yeah, this, and of course relocating people. So if there no.
I just think it's so important, isn't it? Like, obviously, you know, for charity, but there's just hence I plug it so often. So there's my book, Sharon. But you know, like Jan Teg's book, when you're talking Boolean, I immediately think, wow, I mean, that book is like a manual, isn't it, of all the different ways you can extract every single site under the planet, with so many tips on unearthing all sorts of stuff. I mean, they're like that's that, you know, low-hanging fruit you said earlier, like the really cheap, easy ways to learn. But then obviously all the conferences, they've all gone virtual. Tons of free ones at the moment. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the HR, if you want to get into sourcing, the HRTX one is going to be a hoot. Except for the fact I'm slightly double booked at the second, but never mind. Hopefully they'll sort one out. I'm not sourcing, clearly. Yuri's like, Katrina, sourcing? Jesus, I hope not. I hope she talks about what she actually knows. So yeah, I can't believe we're out of time. How did that go so fast? It's crazy. We've got a couple of minutes, but I just want to quickly say, next week, be warned, not just for you, Vanessa Roth, but we are switching to Thursday. I know, Thursday. It's been nearly 5 years on a Friday, but we are switching to Thursday. Same time, 3 p.m., 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. European. I can't speak. And we have Clive Smart coming on next week, who did confuse. I forgot to tell Glenn and confused him over that. That was my fault. So yes. Sorry. Just going off on one. You guys have gone really quiet.
No, it's totally cool.
I need to say a number of times we're switching to Thursday. It's going to confuse everyone.
It's good. Well, yeah. I mean, it's throwing me already.
It's making me double book myself. It's quite funny. Thursday's a busy day, but I'm quite excited about it.
So perhaps, folks, you might see us next Thursday if we
sort
our calendars out.
You mightn't see Glenn. I'll be here. Jiri, have you got actually, how can people find you if they want to stalk you, talk to you?
Yeah, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, on GitHub, on Facebook,
anywhere.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and were there any things that you came onto the show and you're like, I really want to share that you haven't got to share yet? Any final thoughts where we've left you? Because I suddenly went, my God, we've run out of time.
Final thoughts of wisdom or
on data analytics and why it matters. I tell you, you have piqued my interest. You have shocked me a few times on some of the stuff. I've been very impressed, even though I was like, oh, data.
I think, my actually message is that recruiters and sourcers shouldn't afraid of data. It's our friends, and it shows where we are going and how we can improve and where we can improve. So this is my message.
Cool. Yeah, good message to end the show as well, Jiri.
Really good message. Thank you for waiting such a long time. We have such a queue. Aren't we lucky? I think Glenn and I are like really lucky to have such a queue of incredible guests. I'm awed. Absolutely awed.
100%.
And yeah, poor Glenn, whenever he goes to slot somebody, he's a bit shocked because I've like booked us out for the year. Sorry. I see like really interesting conversations going and go, oh, they make a great guest. I'm just annoying like that.
That's cool.
Anyhow, thank you everybody for all of your comments. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Shafiq. He's just shared your LinkedIn profile. Now that's service, isn't it? From our little fan base there. Thank you. Yes, you shall see me at HRTX and ATAP next week, and then HRTX the week after, where I'm double booked. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, it's Thursday next week, same time. Thursday.
Cool.
Thank you again, Jiri. Thank you again to Enterprise alumni. We would not be here without you. And have the most wonderful weekend, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.